So I've had the iPhone 16 Pro Max since it came out around 9 or so months ago, and I also had the iPhone 16 Plus since that time. And in this episode, I want to share with you the real differences after all these months later. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and let's go ahead and talk about the differences in the design, the build, and the feel. And honestly, when I pick both of these up, I feel like I'm essentially picking up the same exact phone, just one just feels a little bit better in the hand, and that is the 16 Plus. Months later, it just feels like the lighter option between the two. It definitely is. But it feels more like the iPhone 15 Pro Max last year, but you still get some of the neat features of the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So months later, I just enjoyed this size a bit more. I also enjoyed the look a little bit more. I like the teal color. I like the vertical camera array. I like the camera control button on this phone as well, being lighter. And it does have the action button just like the previous model. So generally this phone has to me been the more enjoyable design, but for the next reason, I just couldn't get on board with making it my main phone. And that's going to be its lack of the 120 hertz refresh rate ProMotion display that's found on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. So when I go ahead and I swipe through, everything just feels smoother, more buttery on the iPhone 16 Pro Max, even if it comes with a heavier, bulkier feel. Now, the 16 Pro Max's thinner bezels have been noticeable over that device, though. It definitely feels like you're holding a giant screen in your hand, and that, for that reason alone, it's been better than a lot of phones I tried this year. So if you like a super massive display, one that feels like a little tiny tablet in your pocket, this one's going to be one of the better options on the market. However, the core experience, once you get used to the 60 hertz, if you're tried other phones before, it's basically the same. So it doesn't feel substantially different. It's just once you go and see a smoother panel going back, you can definitely see how it refreshes differently. But the bezels just make it feel more like last year's iPhone to me after using 16 Pro Max. So it didn't quite do enough to make me stay on it as my main device. So I just mostly use it for testing purposes, occasionally when I wanted a lighter, bigger iPhone over the past several months. But I didn't use it as a primary driver for a couple of those reasons that I just mentioned. Now, from the performance and chip perspective, the iPhone 16 Pro Max is housing the Apple A18 Pro chip, whereas the iPhone 16 Plus is housing the A18. Now, what's good about these is they're both very powerful. So I noticed a lot of people were picking up the 16 Plus when I picked this phone up. And I think it might be down to, of course, the lower price tag, but the nice look of the 16 Plus along with an A18 chip clocked in at 4.04 gigahertz. Definitely, that's the same clock speed as the A18 Pro. And it also has 8 gigabytes of RAM, just like the 16 Pro Max. So definitely, when you have the specs that nearly match it, you're not going to have troubles playing games on this phone. I don't care which ones they are. They could be casual games. They could be bigger games, bigger downloads. It's just not a problem for this phone. Everything runs fantastic, and it doesn't have any substantial issues with heat either. They did a decent job there. It isn't like there's no vapor chamber in here. So it may be heavier sessions when you're plugged into a charger, you will feel it warm up a bit, but it just generally doesn't have any major issues around the board with performance. And it was one of the better reasons why it's, I think, a better option than the prior Plus models. And hopefully they retain this with the Airs that are likely to replace these in a couple of months, giving us that more modern chipset, some of the better cameras on here, and giving us most of what the Max offers so we can find ourselves a cheaper option. So I find value in the 16 Plus for those reasons. However, when we move on to the next category, the 16 Pro Max definitely takes the win, and it's only by a little bit, but it definitely does, and that is the battery life. So the battery life on the iPhone 16 Pro Max has been so good. It's been something I have been praising about it over the past year, but it has been the best I've seen since the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So if you love the battery life you've seen over there, this one has been equally on that level, if not better than that. Now, some of the competitors have carbon silicon batteries that allow for larger batteries and a thinner body. Those have actually outshined this in my experience, but this battery has been incredibly good. The iPhone 16 Plus, though, I think if you were looking for a cheaper option in the iPhone lineup, the 16 lineup, but you still wanted long max-like battery life, you really will win with this one right here. And I think this is going to be a superb used or secondhand option as they go to the Air. Maybe they discontinue the Plus line. It gets cheaper on the secondhand market. I think you're going to be able to get this for a really good deal eventually. Like maybe in a couple years, this phone will still have several updates and it'll probably be under $500. So it'll be a great used iPhone option with really strong battery life day to day. Now these do have different software. That's why you're seeing the 16 Plus loaded, because we're on 18 over here. We're on 26 beta over there. You can get the beta over here. I just didn't install it on my 16 Plus, but yeah, from the battery perspective, of course, if you turn on the low power mode, you're not going to have any issues, but it just tends to last and last and last on both of these phones. So in real world practice, the real difference is the iPhone 16 Pro Max just got a little bit further for me. I'm going to say about a couple of hours day to day, but nothing substantial. Now, when it comes to the camera systems, I've really loved the iPhone 16 Pro's camera system for its ultra wide 48 megapixel setup. Also having the ability to go into these different millimeter ranges. They've been able to do this for a while now, but it just makes the 1X camera better to use because you do have different variations of lenses you can hit on that sharper sensor. As we zoom, the zoom cameras are never going to be as sharp as the main, but as we go into, well, maybe someday, but right now they're not. We can go 25. So pretty nice long zoom. This one really does have the slow motion improvements over the other version. So if you do want a higher slow motion rate, this is going to be the one to give it to you. On the iPhone 16 Pro Max, you can actually do 4K at 120 on this phone. So definitely gives you quite a bit more on offer there. This liquid glass is definitely going to be an adjustment period if you're not used to this software. But yeah, the camera system overall is just a hair better on the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And these several months later, though, what's been nice is that I feel like with the camera control button, which I just triggered this, the 16 Plus has been great. It really has. And I feel like it has like the cameras that most consumers actually are going to use, like a 2x. They just punch in a little bit. They need a little bit of zoom. They back it out somewhat sometimes. I just feel like these cameras are just a really consumer-oriented, really good setup here. So if you are looking for cameras that are probably ones you're actually going to use the most, like in reality, the 16 Plus offers enough. And then the front-facing camera has been the same one they've been using for a while, and it's just tried and true. If it's not broke, why fix it? So 16 Plus has been a sweet camera setup, and with having the camera control, you don't feel like you're missing out too much. As before, you felt like with those 5x zooms, you were missing out a lot, but now that you have the camera control features on here, you don't really even miss it at all with the triple camera system. So if you wanted a 16 Plus, you are getting basically the majority of what a Pro Max user is going to use, unless they're actually pros, actually using the professional features. I do think you do just fine with that iPhone 16 Plus over there. No problem. So there are some features that are exclusive to the Max. Like you do have better USB-C. Over here, it's a little bit faster. You do have the, like I said earlier, the reduced bezels. You do have a bigger battery. Of course, the triple camera setup. So there are features that you are missing out on if you go over here, but they're not that huge. I think the biggest one, honestly, is the ProMotion. Like once that comes to these Airs or these base model phones, then it's going to be a tougher sell to go to the Max. Although most people who are tech enthusiasts are always going to go to the top dog. They don't want the phone that is missing anything when they're paying this kind of money for a device. And these phones tend to not get too much interest amongst the tech enthusiast crowd, the Plus models, but I think generally they're pretty good. I didn't say great though. I said they're pretty good because they would need the promotion for them to be great at that price. So they are a little bit high price for that screen, and that's basically end the conversation for a lot of people. You'll see comments like, no promotion, no 120 hertz. There's 120 hertz on $150 phones, $250 phones. End of convo for me. Goodbye. That literally is the end of the conversation for tech enthusiasts. But price versus value, I think the 16 Pro Max for a lot of regular consumers is overkill. I think for tech enthusiasts, it's worth every penny. I think they're going to love the battery life, the massive camera setup, giving you all these nice features, the camera control, the premium build, the ultra thin bezels. This has been my favorite iPhone besides like the other 16 Pro, the smaller one they've ever produced, mostly because I like how they stretch the screen without making the body substantially bigger. It just feels like I'm getting closer to that all screen dream of mine that I've been talking about for a while. Some people saying we don't necessarily need all screen. That's just one of my personal dreams. But I think the iPhone 16 Plus has been the best value since the Plus line launched. I didn't love the 14 Plus. I thought it was pretty good. But the 15 Plus was a bit better. I gave that one some praise. It was a pretty solid phone. But this has been the absolute best value in the Plus lineup since it came out. It has a really nice build. It has a thin, light design for its size, even lighter than the 15 Pro Max. It has the camera control button, and I think it's underappreciated for what it is. The price is rather high, but when you compare it to the Max, the S25 Ultra, these bigger phones that are kind of mostly similar with just a little bit more feature set, it seems to be a solid value. It's going to last a long time as well with several years of upgrade. But yes, in conclusion, I think the 16 Plus wins if you want a better price to value. Like, you get most of what you want here, but I think the overall, obviously, the 16 Pro Max has been the better phone. It just feels like the more technologically advanced one, but I do think for the average user, it didn't matter if you went with either of these. You have a big premium iPhone and you won. You're having a great experience, and I think it's time that they go promotion, which I think they will in a couple of months. But yeah, that's how I feel about these two several months later. I've been pretty happy with both of them. Let me know your thoughts about either down below, which one you picked up and your experience, and share with the community. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.